Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Hope you all are having a wonderful day today. We definitely had some interesting news pop up today. So, first story we're going to dive right into is Tulsi Gabbard announced today that she is actually leaving the Democratic Party, which a couple comments on that first before I play the video that she put up. So, I'm not surprised by it necessarily. I feel like this has been a long time coming, honestly. She has had quite a few standpoints that just are clearly in opposition to what the Democrats are pushing nowadays. But yeah, those are my first thoughts. Doesn't surprise me necessarily, but let's go ahead and look at this video that she put up today. So
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans.
So first, something I want to touch on real quick that I'm picking up on is her emphasis on the left's tendency nowadays to go against what they originally supported, right? So like freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is generally speaking a classical liberal type of position, almost to the extremes, which clearly is not the case anymore. And I think she's seeing through that. And I think Tulsi Gabbard is the clips I've seen of her and the things that I've seen from her. It's very encouraging to see somebody like her because she's not necessarily a conservative or Republican, but her ideology is it's just a free-minded, individual thinking type of mindset, which I think we are certainly lacking here in America in the 21st century. So, yeah, initial thoughts there.
Believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war.
Yeah, so the political opponents thing, I saw there was somebody who was raided by the FBI, like a pro-life individual that was just out there supporting, pro-life. Let's see if I can pull this up. Pro-life raided. Yeah, here we go. Texas right to life. So the FBI is out here raiding the former president, political opponents, also raiding a pro-lifer with really no reason if you look at it, to be honest. Let's see. Yeah. Footage of the incident shows police arriving to the scene and ordering the pro-lifers to vacate the building. Eventually, an officer makes an announcement saying, "We are going to be making the final warning right now. Anybody that is still here after 5 minutes will be arrested. You guys have been really good to us. We appreciate the cooperation, okay?" So, yeah, as she's saying, the intelligence agencies being weaponized to arrest political opponents, shut down speech, is an inherently un-American idea. So let's go ahead and finish out this clip. I know I already read the transcript, but it's good to see it from her directly.
Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
So it seems like a positive message, right? She's encouraging people to think outside the box. She's not even necessarily saying to leave the Democratic Party to join the Republican Party. I think Tulsi might even be getting at this idea here that she's talked about in the past about thinking independently and just thinking outside the box, especially when it comes to two political parties. I don't think it's good at all that we have two major political parties. And simply, I'm going to lay this out like this. So the two parties is inherently a bad system because when you think about it, people like Tulsi Gabbard have some nuanced positions. Some would say she's more left-leaning in certain positions. Others may say she's right-leaning in other positions. But there's not always a place for certain people to fall, right? And the issue with the two-party system is that it creates this polarization between Americans that doesn't necessarily need to be there. I have conversations every single day almost at work with my coworkers, and we all have differing political ideologies, I'm sure, and different ideas and standpoints. But the fact is, we all are respectful of one another, and we see the good in one another, and we have, for the most part, respectful conversations. I think most Americans are really like that. I don't think the polarization is what it is today, and I think this is a really good thing, seeing this from Tulsi. And she's gotten some backlashes. We'll see here in the comments. People saying she's communist. Like, you don't have to be a communist just to not want to be a Democrat or be associated with the Democratic Party, right? It's just, it's not a good thing to be to be so feeble-minded as that. So, anyways, that's the first story. Second story I want to get into today is this right here. So, saw this article today from the Post Millennial about the Gates Foundation pledging $200 million for international digital IDs. Really? Do I even need to explain why this is a bad thing? Let's go ahead and read this article, and we can see what you guys think about this. So, Gates Foundation pledges $200 million for international digital IDs. Let's see. I'm going to need to go ahead and mute this page. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been revealed to have pledged $1.27 billion in funding towards achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals, with a portion of this going towards invasive technologies. In a press release issued September 21st, following the United Nations General Assembly Week, the foundation stated that $200 million of this sizable fund would be going towards expanding the digital public infrastructure. This funding will help expand infrastructure that low and middle income countries can use to become more resilient to crises such as food shortages, public health threats, and climate change, as well as to aid in pandemic and economic recovery. This infrastructure encompasses tools such as interoperable payment systems, digital ID, data sharing systems, and civil registry databases. Let's see what this says here on the digital ID. Oops. Yeah, so this is an opinion piece on digital IDs. Let's go back here. Speaking with the Defender shortly after this monetary pledge, Michael Rechtenwald, author of Google Archipelago, The Digital Gulag and Simulation of Freedom, warned of the negative consequences of digital identifications. All of the other means of identifying and tracking subjects, digital identity poses perhaps the gravest technological threat to individual liberty yet conceived. It has the potential to trace, track, and surveil objects and to compile a complete record of all activity from cradle to grave. So this is kind of what I was talking about yesterday. I made a video about a digital currency and PayPal shutting down and fining people for misinformation. This is what this reminds me of. So, digital ID, having a number tacked to your personality or your personal information. So, social security number. If we had a digital ID, we can even look at the pandemic, the recent pandemic, and say, if digital IDs were commonplace during the past pandemic, how would have things changed? And you can pretty easily see how that could spiral out of control, going from transactions, making payments, banks shutting down those who they disagree with. If we had a digital ID, we couldn't buy or sell, hypothetically, in certain scenarios if they said we could not do so. And this is what it says right here. So digital identity will serve as a means of coercion and enforced compliance with the outrageous demands of a vaccine regime that will have no end. It is no wonder that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is funding this invasive rights abrogating technology, given Gates' investments, both financially and ideologically, in coercive, neo-Malthusian, and arguably eugenics-friendly methods. So I've seen evidence. I'm sure many of you have seen evidence on Mr. Gates and his investments in his past, with the idea of using vaccines to, do what he wants to do. I'm not going to say necessarily what the goal is. It's not my place to comment on that, but let's just say he has a vested interest in vaccines for some reason, which kind of interesting to me personally. You can only imagine, like I said, the past pandemic, if we had vaccines involved with digital IDs, and governments could track every individual that had a vaccination or complied with X compliance law, and if you didn't have it, you couldn't do this or that. It's just not, it's anti-American, it's anti-Constitution, it's anti-liberty. We should absolutely, this should be a hill to die on right here if this becomes a reality, to to be enforced by a government, we should absolutely do everything we can to resist these digital IDs. This reminds me too, I saw a tweet from, let's see, this right here from Wall Street Silver. And this, I think this is a leaked advertisement from the HSBC, which is a bank. It says your DNA will be your data. And you can see there's a merging here of the digital ID and your biological identity. So some interesting news. I'd like to get more into this, more into depth into this. But we're going to cut that story short. It's just alarming to see these things. I'll post this article down in the description. There's more down here in this article as well. Just some alarming news to share with you guys. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is this right here. So apparently it seems as if our U.S. officials are trying to negotiate with OPEC to cut oil prices for at least one more month, which makes you ask the question, why is it 1 month? And think about it. What's in a month? It's November. It's election season. So pretty blatantly right here, we have the U.S. government, U.S. officials, and we'll go ahead and read parts of this article real quick from the Wall Street Journal. But pretty openly, temporarily negotiating a cut in oil prices. So days before a major oil production cut by OPEC and its Russia-led allies, U.S. officials called their counterparts in Saudi Arabia to delay the decision for another month, according to people familiar with the talks. The answer, a resounding no. So I can't even read the rest of the article here, but devious tactics by the government, not surprising at all. Interesting news, to say the least. Very, very interesting news. Stuff is happening every day, guys. We need to keep alert on what we are reading, pay attention to what's going on so that we can take part in this. I think the Tulsi Gabbard story was one that resounds with me. I really like that. I really like Tulsi Gabbard. She's a free thinker. She doesn't even fall into one box at all. Really love Tulsi. She's about freedom and liberty, and that's a bright story for today. The other two stories, not necessarily the best stories, but wanted to get something out there for you guys. Some interesting news going on. Watch the oil prices. Watch the election. See what happens. Read into this digital ID thing. I'd like to go more in depth into this, but to be quite honest, I don't have the time to dive fully into this tonight. So maybe in the coming days, I'll take a deeper dive into this subject of digital IDs. But yeah, I hope you guys took something from the video. Hope I enlightened some of you with some news. Love to talk with you guys. If you have anything to say, make sure you leave a comment. Subscribe for more. Like the video. This channel is pretty new. I'm still getting going, so every single subscription really matters. I really appreciate it. Notice I had a couple subscribers that have subscribed, so I do appreciate that. Share the video if you know anybody that would like to, get some news every day and just have some discussion about some current events that are going on. But yeah, if you guys like the video, stick around. With that being said, I'll see you next time. Peace out.